Hey, welcome back, and thank you for joining us for day number 6, which I believe the prompt was rodent. So as we get started here with the illustration, the first thing that I kind of really struggled with is obviously initially the first thing that came to my mind personally, and I think it's just due to the childhood that I had, was that immediately I wanted to do something very Splinter from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles kind of feel to it. And eventually I still kind of did something along those lines, but with the backstory and powers and stuff like that, I did something more along the lines of a wizard or a mage rather than a ninja or a warrior kind of a thing. And so the overall body structure and stuff like that is very reminiscent of Splinter, but I went with a costume change. He's got kind of a more of a hooded figure, and he's got like a longer beard that's braided and has, ornaments in it. And then I also kind of drew him a little bit kind of standing and balanced on his staff. And I gave him one of those staffs that's very reminiscent of like the Monkey King from Chinese culture. So, it's like a big brass, or I guess the whole thing isn't brass, but just a big old shaft with brass tips and stuff like that for when they battle or cast spells and stuff. And then the other thing that I try to do to kind of help differentiate from like a ninja or samurai or anything like that is I added like little areas where talismans are hanging, so you can see that I've got a couple little magical talismans hanging from his staff and from his tail and stuff like that. And so then I also went with like a green for the hero. And it was really hard for me to kind of decide on the color. One of the hardest aspects of the process when it comes to designing a new character for me personally is obviously, yeah, the first part, which is just dreaming up a character, but is the color schemes that go with them. Some colors work really well with each other. If you've taken any kind of color theory classes and stuff like that, some colors work really well with each other, some don't. And for me, that's one of the big things that I struggle the most with, is just finding those color correlations and combinations that work really well with not only what I feel the character's personality is, but also just visually. When a person looks at the piece, they're like, "Oh wow, that's very appealing," just due to the colors. And so I felt that I did really well with this, with kind of a very I'm gonna botch this, but like kind of a, I wouldn't say analogous. Is that where the colors that are side by side? It's not a complementary, but like you've got kind of your browns and your greens and stuff like that. So, but yeah, so that's the end of it there. I kind of finished up with a bit of like a little spell cast there as well. But let us get into the backstory and powers for this hero, which I have called Spellcaster. So here is his backstory. In the Old Orient, the ancient legends speak of 4 men of renowned wisdom that provided prosperity and glory to the rising People's Empire of China. 1,000 years before the first dynasty rose, these 4 men abandoned their people in an effort to improve themselves. Embracing new ideologies, these men transformed themselves into animals to instigate a new level of perception. Living past the natural age, these mages once again descended to provide aid, but found that corruption plagued the hearts of their once proud people. Abandoning their initial task, they aided the battle against the evil that now was rampant throughout the region. So the powers for these men, or for this particular hero, are the abilities of these men vary due to what they specialize in, but they've all been observed to perform incredible fighting abilities, as both physically and magically. Also, with their knowledge of the arcane, they perform marvelous feats of matter manipulation, being able to control certain elements of nature, like the weather, or the sea, or the earth, or even the blazing heat of fire. So once again, that is the backstory and powers for this day's hero, Spellcaster. And this was day number 6, Rodent. Thanks for joining.